Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast episode with me, your host, Rosie Kay. Today, I am going to be exploring a topic which isn't just unique to ethical non-monogamy or the swinger lifestyle, but it's one which I think is a taboo topic, regardless of how you choose to practice relationships, and also whether you are a man or woman, regardless of whether you're in a relationship, regardless of how old you are. I think we've all thought about this and also had this question asked to us and also asked it to others, and that is, how many people have you slept with? And that's what I'm going to be exploring today. Now, some people think that, of course, this topic has come about because there are misconceptions about swingers and the amount of people they slept with and their motivations for being part of the lifestyle. But also, I think a lot of people think that it's kind of like a prerequisite that you have to get involved with lots of people, or that's what's expected, or that's kind of the life that is kind of going to unfold for you. Not necessarily. And also, I was kind of curious and asking myself the question, how many people have I slept with really? So that's what today's podcast episode is all about. And I will, of course, be looking at the double standard, my experiences of that, and also I'll be looking at a few of the reasons as to why people face judgment. And also, why it's different for different societies and how people view body count numbers. So that's what's on the agenda. So without further ado, I will get started. Let me just get that back up. Okay, so by the age of 23, um, I knew that I had enjoyed the company of 26 different people. And I used to actively enjoy keeping count. And once in my pre-swinger years, I met two men within 24 hours. And then when I turned 26, I visited a swingers club for the first time. And that is when I decided to stop counting. But how many people have I slept with really? Is having a body count a bad thing? And why do we treat it as a taboo subject when dating and meeting new people? Is it off-putting to someone? If so, why is it? Let's not ignore the gross double standard between the sexes. It's time to dive into this topic in full. Now, I'm not entirely sure how many people I have slept with, um, but I am going to try and create some kind of formula. So bear with me. So, number of sexual partners at the age I started swinging, probably 35 no, people. Number of years I've been a swinger, at least 10. We're going to call it 10. Amount of swinger interactions, including all clubs, parties, and private meets. I don't know. I've lost count of that. So let's try another way. Let's say I've been swinging for 10 years and have swung once a month for those 10 years. That's 120 potential times. Now let's times that number by two because there's two people to play within a couple. That is 240 people. I don't need to tell you that sounds like a lot. And that's not even considering my summer of 2019 when I had around 2 dates a week in London. So the point I'm trying to make here is that there's no way that I can possibly work out my number. There's no easy formula. There's no way that I've been keeping record. And more importantly, why should I? Now, as a younger woman, when I was first stepping out on my journey of sexual exploration, I'm not going to lie, I was eager to meet as many people as possible, and I loved the thrill of one night encounters, going to house parties, and meeting women, gay women, in nightclubs. It was wild, it was exciting, and I used to actively enjoy meeting a variety of different people. And in hindsight, it's no wonder that I became a swinger. And during that time, I felt no shame. I felt no guilt. I was bouncing from one encounter to the next with my wages in my back pocket and my student bus pass in the other. Life was good and I could get drunk on £20. But over time, doubt and insecurity began to creep into my mind. And when I entered the world of real grown up work, I soon found that the topic of numbers or being body count positive could land you being slut shamed or viewed as untrustworthy. I found a strict divide evident between men and women, and soon it became a topic that I felt uncomfortable discussing. On nights out with other colleagues, it was acceptable for men to brag about their conquests and display disgust at women who would even consider doing the same. I had gone from proudly displaying my notches on my bedpost to furiously trying to rub them out. I learned that society did not condone sexually confident young women who wanted to take charge of their fantasies and desires. I once dated a man who, before deciding to date me, decided to ask his sister for her thoughts about my prior sexual promiscuity. I had no idea of this until a few months later when the sister, who didn't like me very much anyway, smugly mentioned this to me. But have I faced more judgment than this? Yes, of course. And that's fine. If other people want to judge me for yet another decision I have made that has very little, if not fuck all, to do with them, then go ahead. Judge all you want. Am I ever going to refrain from living the life I enjoy out of fear of criticism and judgment from TikTok user 347722397771? Absolutely not. However, sometimes it can be uncomfortable to hear judgment in real time, as opposed to a comment left on a video posted to social media. For example, when meeting other people for dates or when a topic comes up in conversation with other swingers. But if you're already in the lifestyle and you are still being judgmental of others and their involvement, that might be a sign that the lifestyle isn't for you, because being intimate with people, it kind of goes hand in hand with the swinger lifestyle. But does it matter how many people someone has slept with? Now, you all know my opinion on this, which is, of course, hell no, whether it's 3 or 333. If it feels right for you, that is the right answer. There is no prerequisite stating that you must have had at least 30 initial partners to enter the lifestyle, or that by joining, you must double your number within the first 2 months. Likewise, if you choose only to be intimate with a few partners in your lifetime, this is also absolutely fine. Sure, it's not what I would do or have done, but I'm not you. And my friend, you do you. Now, I'm aware that my liberal approach and non judgmental attitude are only one perspective, and there are, of course, other arguments and perspectives that we might want to consider. So, why might it matter? Let's talk about personal values and compatibility. So, why might it matter for some people? Now, for some, sexual history is tied closely to personal values or religious beliefs, and they may feel more comfortable with a partner whose values align with theirs. This can be particularly important for those who value exclusivity or have strong beliefs about sex and relationships. Likewise, it might not matter. Others may believe that as long as both partners are committed to each other now, past experiences are relevant. For them, the quality of a relationship and compatibility matter more than sexual history. Let's talk about trust and communication. Now, if a partner feels uncomfortable or curious about their partner's past, it could lead to insecurities or misunderstandings if it isn't discussed openly. A lack of transparency can sometimes lead to trust issues, especially if one person feels the other is withholding information. Now, I myself have been in a situation where I dated somebody who was really curious about my past and how many people I slept with, and they knew I've been to swingers clubs and they knew I've been involved in the lifestyle, and they kept asking and asking and asking. And when I told them the truth and my journey and reality, for them it was a huge source of insecurity. And I kind of figured this out, which is why I didn't want to, I felt I was going to burden them when I shared, but also they kept asking. And I kind of thought, fine, I'll tell you if it's that big a deal, I will tell you. And they didn't like it and they got really upset. And that relationship couldn't continue because I couldn't be with somebody who couldn't accept it or internalized it. And there were other reasons as to why that relationship ended, but it made this person even more insecure than they already were. But that's their shortcoming, not mine. And I wasn't prepared to be made to feel bad or be made to apologize for my life. But why might it not matter? Many people may feel that past relationships are in the past and prefer not to discuss them in detail. Open communication can help each person set boundaries about how much they want to know. This approach prioritizes the current relationship without focusing on past experience. And I think when you reach a certain age in life, when you enter the dating market at a certain age, I think you have to be pretty realistic and understand that pretty much everybody has got a past. And yes, they may have been married before, they may have children before, they've probably had more sexual partners before, they have, they've lived a whole life independently of you. So you can't really hold it against them when they do share. I have a friend of mine who is older than me, um, and she has always maintained she wouldn't get in a relationship with a man who's been married. She wouldn't be in a relationship with a man who's got children. She wouldn't be in a relationship with a man who has had any kind of um committed past, I'm gonna say. Yet at the same time, she doesn't want a man who has had a number of sexual partners either. I think what she really wants is a woman. But we'll leave that there. Um, but yeah, for me, I find her approach very frustrating because she discredits so many lovely men simply because of the fact that they've got a past, or well, he'll have had women, or he slept with women, or well, he's got kids. So, well, yeah, because if you reach the age of 40, you probably have. Another one, relationship expectations and intentions. Now, why it might matter for some, sexual history may influence how they view long-term compatibility, commitment, and fidelity. They may feel more comfortable if their partner has had similar levels of experience or expectations about monogamy and sexual exclusivity. Why it might not matter. Others may view sexual history as just that, history. They might focus on present behavior and current intentions rather than the past, seeing it as something that doesn't define the person today. I really want to share this story with you. A few years ago, when I was actively dating, I met somebody who for a date, and he was really nice, and we got on well together, and he ticked a lot of boxes. Um, and I told him about a little bit about the swinger lifestyle and like what I enjoyed, and people, not all the people I sat with, but couples and women and variety of the spice of life type. So that was my vibe I was leading with. And he shared with me a little bit of his experiences, and I know the look on my face. I already know that I sat there and I looked a little bit crestfallen because I was like here and he was like here. And I looked at him and I just thought I would eat you for breakfast. And I kind of, maybe I shouldn't have judged, but I kind of almost felt this huge shift, and I felt as though I was a lot more experienced than he was. And it was really hard for me to look past that. Maybe I was judgmental in this occasion. Maybe I was the one who shouldn't have judged harshly. Maybe I was making presumptions. Um, and I found that really hard to I couldn't look past it, and I wanted to, but I just felt like I was leading somebody down into a rabbit warren or down into something which they perhaps were not ready for. Maybe I wanted them to come to that conclusion by themselves, as opposed to me going, we could go and do this, and this is my life, and this is what I do. And I kind of didn't want to take somebody along for the journey who hadn't made their own decision to get there. Um, but it surprised me that I was that judgmental. But sometimes I think um, I have to be honest with myself. I'm just a human being like everybody else. But yeah, I was reluctant to kind of take somebody on that journey. Although, he was open to it, but I think the reality probably would have not been it it might have been too much for him. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe he's turned into a massive swinger now. Um, but yeah, that surprised me about myself. Another one, health and safety. From a health perspective, why it might matter. A person's sexual history could matter in terms of assessing potential risks for sexually transmitted infections. Open and honest communication about testing and health can provide peace of mind for both partners. Why it might not matter. Rather than focusing on numbers, prioritizing regular STI testing and safe sexual practices can alleviate concerns around health without needing to discuss specific details with past partners. This is another one that female friend of mine always comes back to. Um, she can be quite judgmental, but she kind of has this thing of like, well, if somebody's slept with a lot of women, what are they carrying? What are they doing? What are they putting out there? And I can kind of understand where that comes from. This is a topic I'd like to explore more, kind of where do double standards stem from, but also why is this topic one which comes up in conversation? Why is it one which as human beings, we are a little bit obsessed talking about, knowing about, finding out information about. Why is that? Where does it stem from? Is there a biological reason? I think there probably is. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'll get off topic, but I feel like it is deep rooted in human nature and biology. And when we're looking for mating partners, I feel like that's one definite an article for TKG Club because I'm going to dive in deep. Part I'll probably make a note to explore that at some point, but you catch my drift. Um, but yeah, certainly it kind of is a thing, and it is a reason that I can kind of understand. But like you say, rather than focus on numbers, instead look at what are you doing to keep yourself safe? Are you getting checked regularly? Is that important to you rather than well, how many people you've been with last month? Another one, self-esteem and insecurity, why it might matter. For some, knowing their partner's sexual history might stir up feelings of jealousy, inadequacy, especially if they're compared about comparisons or measuring up to past partners. And that was the problem with the gentleman that I told you about. Why it might not matter. Working on self-esteem and focusing on the connection you share in the present can help reduce insecurity. For many, sexual history becomes irrelevant when they feel genuinely valued and appreciated by their partner. Um, so the next one, social conditioning and stigma. So one of my favorite topics, stigma. Why it might matter. Social or cultural conditioning can sometimes influence how people view sexual history. Some may internalize the idea that of having many partners is bad or unattractive. But why it might not matter. Many people recognize that the number of partners doesn't necessarily correlate with a person's character or their ability to have healthy, committed relationships. Challenging outdated stigmas can help people view relationships more openly. Do you think less of me now I've shared with you all that I've lost count of people? Do you think less of me that now we've acknowledged it's probably more than 240 people? Do you think less of me now that I've shared with you that I once proudly went from one man's bed to another in less than 24 hours? I don't know. More importantly, I don't care. Um, I think sometimes people focus so much on, well, if they've done this, they must be this type of person, or if they're willing to do that, they must also be that type of person, or I can't trust this person because they do that. And again, I think this has roots in probably human biology and human nature. So again, I would like to look at that. But ultimately, does it really matter? Sometimes people, when they sit down for consultations with me, they share with me that they've only had, three or four sexual partners, or very often when husbands and wives sit down with me and they've been long-term married, I work with couples who've only ever been with one another. Is it, do I sit there and judge them for that? No. Do I understand where that's come from? Yes, of course. Do I understand that venturing out into the world of swinging is really scary for people who haven't had that much experience? Yes, of course. But do I think less of them because they're not as experienced as others? No. Do I think that they're perhaps um, maybe view, maybe perceived to be naive or timid or shy or reclusive? No, because that's the life that they've lived and that's their history and that's their journey and that's who they are and that's made them the people that they are. And you can't change that, but all you can do is listen to it and embrace it and sometimes learn from it and look at what has been created. What are they the product of? And on that note, what am I the product of? A lot of sexual promiscuity, which is why I started this kind of girl. So this topic has deep roots. Discussing the number of sexual partners is a conversation that we'll all have at some point in our lives, whether it is with new people we are looking to date, connections we are making while swinging, or when asked for our thoughts about it on social media. Thank you to everybody who responded to my question. It's a topic that I believe has its roots in human nature, sexuality, and procreation. And maybe in another post, I will explore the stigma and the judgment where it comes from. And also the stigma and judgment that faces body count positive women like myself. In the meantime, however, I'll just keep one eye on that attractive couple at the bar and a piece of chalk in my pocket. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I've really enjoyed diving into this topic. And sharing with you a very honest and very vulnerable account of my past history, and also exploring a few of the reasons as to why it might matter and why it might not matter as well. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think everybody's faced judgment and everybody has been when they've divulged that number has been received differently as well, and the reception that they've had has been different regarding, social circles they're moving in, the people who they're opening up to. Have you ever had it thrown back in your face? Have you ever had people horrified or disgusted? Um, Whether your number has been high or whether your number has been low, I would love to find out. I'd love to know. So do please drop a comment or get in touch with me because, as ever, I love hearing from you all. Next week, I am hopefully, if I can find time to make the event, hopefully, I'm going to be doing another podcast called Five Signs the Swinger Lifestyle is Not for You, all in responses to slurs and comments left on my social media. So that is in the pipeline. I'm also having another podcast episode in the pipeline called My Journey to Coaching as well. But yeah, that's what's on the agenda coming up in the next few weeks. And I can't believe we will be in December in a few short weeks' time. I already have something booked in for the beginning of December that is Christmassy, and I am not there yet. Like we are still in November. Why is all this Christmas shit happening already? I don't know. But anyway, that's where we are. Thank you to everybody who has watched today. Thank you to everybody who's listened and catch up. And thank you to all the new members who have joined as well. As ever, I am hard at work here at TKG. I have more coaching clients, which is really good. I'm very positive. And also, I am still working on the redevelopment of this kind of girl.co.uk. I have been making videos to go on the site that support the site. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for supporting me, and thank you for being the amazing people that you are.